Hey everybody, I'm Tristan. Welcome to Heroes in Homebrew, and today we're going to do a little more homebrew. So I thought it might be interesting to take a look at the rules I've been writing for my home game. Since in the previous videos I've talked about a lot about the OSR games that are kind of inspiring me and like really getting me into the OSR style of play, but a lot of them are still not quite getting to what I'm wanting to put in my home game. Sure, I could, you know, take things out and add things, and that's essentially what I started doing. And then I realized, well, if that's what I'm doing, if I'm going to be taking pieces from all over the place, I might as well just put them all into this weird, gloopy stew of rules that I'm going to create for my own game. So I thought maybe you guys might want to see it and let me know what you think of it. If you have any ideas to add to it, let me know. And if you think it's garbage and it's going to suck, let me know, but nicely, because, I'm sensitive. So it is called Tales of Blood and Steel. I purposely went with a kind of pulp fantasy, weird fiction kind of title. I might change it. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter now. I don't really have plans to market it and sell it, although maybe down the line, if it's actually good, maybe I will make it available to others. I try to make it as professional looking as possible. So I did write an introduction about what inspired me to write this, and some of the changes. So it's gritty pulp fantasy. Players are not superheroes. I purposely tried to design this so that they don't start super strong and they don't end super strong. They are just, they have to be heroic through their actions, kind of thing. And you're going to grow more powerful over time, but even then, it's not going to be like super high level play. Rules are meant to be easy to understand and can be changed and modified based on the style of game you want to play. And I go into the typical, take these rules and do what you want with them. So it's sword and sorcery. I made a video about wanting to go low fantasy, and this is kind of in that vein, but I've been getting really into Conan lately. I've been rereading all the Robert E. Howard stories, and yes, I know that there are games that are essentially Conan and set in that world, but I'm kind of a storyteller at heart, and I like to write, and I wanted to develop my own world, my own sort of game to do exactly what I wanted to do. I did take elements of Hyboria and Conan stories, but kind of I'm twisting them and kind of making them my own. So they're inspired by stories like Conan, Kull, Elric, and pulp adventures of early 20th century. Magic is rare and dangerous, and in many places it's outlawed. Oops, that's a typo, and I'm going to fix that right now because I am in the Word doc, so I can do that. In many places, magic may even be outlawed. So I've started to come up with this idea that magic is sort of left by the old gods. It's left on this world by the old gods, and it's very dark and sinister. And a lot of the magic that's remnants of millennia past was kind of used by dark cults and sort of like almost Cthulhu mythos type beings. So I kind of want to do that. Right now in the rules, there is a sort of dangerous magic table where if you fail a magic roll, a magic attack roll, or a magic use roll, you have to roll on the table. But I'm thinking I'm going to change it to be sort of like corrupting. So the more you fail at using the magic, the more corrupted you're going to become. And I'm going to have like a mechanic for that to sort of twist the person into like being this kind of abomination, evil abomination kind of thing, and then they stop being a PC and they have to make a new character. But whatever. So magic in this world is a remnant from when the dark gods walked the earth and imbued their vile priests with power that eventually corrupted them. However, there are some who have managed to harness this power and use it without falling to the intoxicating power and corruption it provides. I might need to rewrite that and stop using power so often. Heroes are hard fighting, hard drinking people who may not live to see tomorrow. Most heroes adventure in the wilderness in the hopes of gaining as much gold as possible to pay for drink and company. Life is hard and cheap. Often a fur cloak, loincloth, and big sword is all an adventurer needs. Sometimes it is far from enough. And monsters are rare and frightening. So it's not like D&D. There's not a huge bestiary of monsters. There's going to be a lot of sort of giant versions of monsters, like giant pythons and giant scorpions, and there's gonna like I'm gonna have dinosaurs in it. One idea saw in a video about Conan mythos is there's a variety of different apes around Hyboria. I kind of like that idea. I might kind of steal that a bit. Lizard folk with forked tongues and yellow eyes abduct the foolhardy and drag them to their subterranean kingdoms. Giant winged apes cling to the sides of mountains, and towering frost giants roam the frozen north, feasting on the bones of warriors fallen in battle. So as I was writing this, I was trying to, because I didn't make it a sort of a setting book. So there's no like actual setting in this yet, but I tried to include pieces that would kind of describe the type of setting that this game would be played in. It's an ancient world. The world of Blood and Steel is designed for. The world Blood and Steel is designed for is ancient and pre-medieval. So sort of like Conan, it's sort of pre-history. You know, even like pre-Egyptian. Although this is not on Earth, it's a different world, but it's the same kind of idea. A world of old gods, oracles, superstition, and clashing swords. Cities that rise out of the desert sands and are full of vagabonds and brigands that will cut your throat for a coin. Pirates that raid coastal towns and take what they want. Rulers that see themselves as gods and will crush anyone who stands against them. Jungles thick with massive trees and darkened by the canopy above it can cover huge swaths of the continent. Dinosaurs might prowl the ruins of fallen kingdoms. Tribes of reptilian abominations worshipping dark gods hide in the caves beneath the surface world. This is an ancient world your stories will be told in. So that's kind of trying to build the feeling. And there's the absence of gods. So there's no cleric class. There's no sort of faith-based spells. I took those away. There's only one magic using class, and I call it the Mage, but they have access to what would traditionally be both magic user or wizard and cleric spells. Just removed some things. Though the gods are absent, this does not mean they always were. The gods of the old kingdoms live on in the form of cults dedicated to their worship. That's another typo. Sorry, just correcting as I go. These cults practice many strange and sometimes horrific rituals. Some gather to light candles and pray to a god of light. Others don red robes over their snake-like features and assemble around blood-covered altars to practice human sacrifice. So it's a bit, it's clearly a comedy. Typical using the dice, what you need, stuff like that. Okay, character creation. So the way I set this up is I try to make it step by step. Once you fall into character creation, you're going to learn a couple of the things and then go straight into it, and it's all going to be in order. So if your armor class, it's an ascending armor class. Saving throws, I'm using one saving throw score. I like that. I like it better than the saving throw matrix, and it just that saving throw score just descends over time. That's on a d20. The only thing that will change is the modifier you add to your roll, depending on the situation. Leveling, characters level by gaining XP from monsters and gold. But of course, as a game master, you can give XP for virtually whatever you want. Starting gold is 3d6 times 10. And retirement, it goes up to 12th level. And then characters can retire and build their keeps or whatever. I put that in. I don't have the rules. I didn't add rules for building a keep, but I added in. No alignments. I decided that I'm going to do away with alignments in this because I've never really liked the alignment system, and I think people always get tripped up on playing it. So, and because people are complicated and like, their alignment can shift depending on the situation. So also alignment based spells have been taken away. So first you roll your attributes. You got your strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, willpower. I changed wisdom for willpower. I decided the willpower is going to be representative of mental fortitude and toughness. And certain things like if someone's clinging to the edge of a cliff, say, if they aren't particularly strong, I can allow them to use a willpower saving throw to try and pull themselves up. Things like that. So it's 3d6 down the line. But again, game masters, if they use this, they can use whatever system they want. Can't be less than 3, can't be more than 18. And then the modifiers are -3 to +3. So races. I decided I'm having 3 races: humans, dwarfall, and elvenin. They're really just dwarf and elf, but I decided to change them because I wanted the dwarfs and elves to not be completely different races. They are just humans who have evolved differently based on their environment. So the dwarfall are shorter and don't believe in magic, have resistance to magic because they've spent all their time in the mines and they have no need for magic, that kind of thing. The elvenin are more in tune with nature. They were they moved away from the cities and corruption, became nomads living off the land of the open plains and forests. They have like separate tribes instead of kingdoms and stuff like that. I kind of liked that idea. Humans can be any class, and they get a +1 to all their attributes. Dwarfs or dwarfall get a +1 to constitution and willpower, and a -1 to charisma, so they're not very charismatic people. They cannot be mages because they distrust magic, but they are also resistant to magic, and they have advantage on rolls against spells targeting them. They have dark vision because they've spent their entire time in the mines, and they have a 3 in 6 chance of finding traps. So the Elvenin have a +1 to dexterity and intelligence and a -1 to strength. They cannot be barbarians, as their way of life has taught them to calm their emotions and be in tune with the world around them. And the barbarian rage I gave that the barbarian class kind of negates that. They are immune to being charmed and less likely to be surprised in combat. They're only surprised if they roll a 1 on a d6. They have dark vision and can see up to 30 feet in the dark. That's per. It does not work in magical darkness, of course. And they have a 3 in 6 chance of finding secret doors. So there's 4 classes. Each class has its own specialty and fills a role in the party. The base armor class is 10 plus Constitution modifier plus any armor you're wearing. We have the fighter class, which is pretty standard. Needs to have a minimum of 13 strength. Hit dice is D10 plus modifier, Constitution modifier. Weapons and armor. They can use any weapon and wear any armor. So instead of picking skills and stuff, I gave each class certain abilities that they'll gain at certain levels. So at 3rd level, the fighter gains the ability to use 2 weapons. So the fighter gets an extra attack during their combat turn, and the second attack is made without adding modifiers to attack and damage. So it's just straight roll, straight damage. At 6th level, they get Warrior Spirit, which the fighter can roll a critical hit on a 19 or a 20 instead of just a 20. And at 9th level, they get Great Leader. They can use this ability to inspire other party members. The fighter can give others a +1 to rolls that use strength or dexterity. This ability must be used before the roll is made. So you have to call it, I'm going to inspire them, and they get a +1 to that roll. And at 12th level, they can construct the keep. This is their advancement. So their hit dice goes up 1 plus con every level. They're to hit. It's not every level it goes up, so you have a couple levels where it stays the same, and saving throw. So the tables are pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Barbarian, again, D10 plus Constitution modifier. Barbarians can use any weapon and wear light or medium armor, can't wear heavy armor. At third level, they get Blood Rage. They focus on a single enemy in combat and make 2 attacks per turn against that enemy. This ability can only be used once per long rest. It can only be used against one enemy in combat. 6, they get Great Cleave, where they deal double damage against an enemy once per combat. And I might change that to once per long rest, or maybe a short rest. And at 9th, they get Natural Armor, where their base armor class increases from 10 to 12. The Mage. So this is where I'm going to make a couple of changes. Instead of rolling on the dangerous table, I'm going to make magic like corrupting when it fails. So I just try to harness the dark and dangerous properties of magic. They are the ones who heal injured party members and cast spells of both protection and destruction. Because of the unpredictable nature of magic, every time they cast a spell, they take the chance that it could go wrong. So it can fail, and that's when, if the spell fails, they're going to have to, they'll get like a point of corruption, and haven't really decided what that's going to be yet, but I think it'll be like if they have a point of corruption if they have corruption equal to their level or equal to their willpower or their constitution or something like that, then they'll be fully corrupted. Mages have to have a minimum of 13 intelligence. They get a d6 plus constitution modifier, and they can only use small and medium weapons and wear light armor. That's another thing is I wanted them to also be able to use weapons when they need to, because they have this sort of corrupting magic. If they're always relying on it, it's going to be easy for them to get like knocked out or to be completely corrupted and turn into these abominations and have to remake a character. So I kind of wanted to give them a fighting chance and let them use weapons and armor. Third level, they get turn undead, like the cleric, but it's just these weird sorcerers now. Sixth level, they get battle mage. Although first 2 levels for mage, they don't have turn undead, so good luck. At 6th level, the mage gains the ability to deal maximum damage for any spell. They can use this ability once per long rest and must declare it before they cast the spell. If the spell is not successful, they lose this ability until they take a long rest. I think that's kind of cool. It's like if they're like in a really tight spot, they're like, I'm going to deal maximum damage on this spell, or like fireball or whatever it is. And if it's successful, it's going to be great. If it's not, then sucks to suck. At ninth level, mage gains the ability to focus their magic. 3 times per long rest, they can cast a spell without having to roll on the dangerous magic table. So they'll be like I'll change it to they can cast without risking corruption or whatever. They must declare that they are focusing on the spell before casting it. And at 12th, they can build their arcane tower. And here's the mage advancement. So the dangerous magic, I think, might keep this. So if they roll like, actually maybe I won't. Or they roll a percentage. Maybe they roll a percentage dice, and if it's below that, then they get a corruption point every time they cast a spell. When a mage casts a spell, they must roll a percentile dice. If the result is under the dangerous magic for their level, the spell is cast as normal. If it is above the dangerous magic percentage, the game master will roll on the dangerous magic table and find out what happens. So I created this table, but again, I took that mechanic kind of from low fantasy gaming. I like it in that game, but I think for this setting in this game, I'm going to go with the corruption. And maybe I'll just up the percentages, because 15% at first level, like, you're risking a lot. Like, you're risking just almost failing all the time and like getting corruption points all the time. So I'll have to build in a mechanic to, get rid of corruption points. if that's the case. It doesn't mean the spell fails, it just means that they're being corrupted the more they use magic. And this is what they get for levels for spells. So there are spell levels, but I don't have spell slots. So at like 6th level, they can cast 4 first level spells and two second level and 2 third level. That's it. Like once those are gone, those are gone. And then the last one is criminal. I guess you're thief or rogue. But I kind of wanted it to be more all encompassing because my idea is that this world it's, for lack of a better term, it's kind of shitty. So the thieves and assassins and con men, they're all kind of lumped up into this to be criminals, but they can also be heroes, you know? Like everyone's just kind of not good anyway. So criminals abound throughout the land. Thieves, assassins, and con men are some of the different types of criminals that skulk the dark alleys of cities and are often for hire. Though often lone operators, criminals have been known to join adventure parties with the hopes of getting rich and leaving their old lives in the past. So they can, turn it around. Must have a dexterity of 13. They have a D8 plus con hit dice. And criminals can use small weapons and wear light and medium armor. So it does kind of limit them. They are kind of limited with the type of weapons they can use. I might say the small and medium weapons, because even you don't always want to just be using daggers and whatnot. At 3rd level, they get sneak attack. If their enemy is unaware of their presence and has their back to them, sneak attacks hit automatically, and the criminal rolls damage twice, then adds their modifier. So I kind of like that. There's automatically hits. There's no roll, but the thing is, you're only going to be able to use that so often. It's not going to be like all the time. Not like the flanking roll or even sneak attack in 5e, where it's kind of like as long as someone's flanking, you can get your sneak attack. And so it's kind of like it's only going to work once, you know. At 6th level, they can move silently and hide in shadows. They get advantage on stealth and hide rolls. So your stealth and hide rolls would be like rolling your dexterity, because I don't have skills in this. There's no skill chart. It's all just like, the GM decides what the roll is going to be, kind of thing. And at 9th level, a criminal gains the ability to disable a trap without a roll. They can only use this ability once per long rest. So once per day, kind of thing. They just disable a trap freebie. And at 12th, they can build a guild house. And they have their single thievery skill, which is explained down here. All criminals can use thievery skills. They encompass things like checking for traps, picking tools, climbing walls, and moving with stealth, etc. The criminal rolls 1d6 when they want to use these skills. If the result is equal to or less than their thievery rating, the roll is successful. If the roll fails, the game master can decide what, if any, consequences there are because of the failed attempt. So this is a pretty common mechanic. I think White Box. I think White Box has this mechanic. I'm pretty sure Basic Fantasy has it. So yeah, I just took that straight out of those games. I use that D6 mechanic quite a bit, and then languages. This was kind of an afterthought. I didn't think about languages ahead of time because I was like, well, there's not a lot of different races, so I don't need a lot of languages. Then it occurred to me that there's going to be different kingdoms and countries in this world. They would theoretically speak different languages. So I just kind of threw it in that there's many different local dialects and languages, although one common language has been adopted among humans, Dwarfall, and Elven. Ancient languages and script can be found among ruins and ancient temples scattered throughout the land. Many of these languages may be indecipherable except by magic. And then we go into the basic equipment. It's pretty typical stuff. I think I took most of this straight from White Box, and I did a mix of White Box and Basic Fantasy. And I think some Black Hack. I changed some things. So like here we have the weapons. We have the axe, battle axe, hand axe, great axe. And you get the size, small, medium, large. different damage types. I didn't go with the. There's a lot of games where it's just 1d6. Everything's got 1d6, and it's just like 1d6 plus one for different like strengths. But I decided I was just going to go with using different dice because most people who are going to play this game have the different dice. Might as well use them. I put everything just in gold pieces. I didn't use silver. Like silver and copper do exist, but just for ease of use, I put all the prices in gold. And we have ranged weapons, which also have sizes. So like the criminal can use a hand axe, can use a sling. They don't really have other than the sling, they don't really have a ranged weapon. So I might, actually, let's see, do they have it? No, they don't. I might do like a small hand crossbow kind of thing. Add that in there just so for criminals. And like for the armor, I envisioned, like Conan kind of comic books where like nobody's wearing armor, they're hardly wearing any clothes. But I still put it in there just for people who want to use it. These AC bonuses might be a little high. I'll probably lower those a bit because that means if someone like gets plate mail at like third level, they're going to be like AC 20 for some of them. So I'll probably lower that. And hirelings if people want to use it. So magic and spells, like I said, I'm going to change it for corruption and not the. I have this dangerous magic table, which I kind of just threw together on the fly. I'm not super happy with the results of it, but again, I'm going to change that mechanic to corruption, and then I'll probably make a table for like at different stages of corruptions. They're going to start changing, and I'm going to probably have some of the monsters in the bestiary be sort of like mages that have become completely corrupted. Like ghouls might be, you know, corrupted mages or something like that. Choosing spells, player can choose the spells a player chooses creates the style of mage they play. Spells cannot be changed once chosen, so they pick their spell. That's it. So once you pick your 4 first level spells at whatever level, those are your 4 first level spells. Like you don't change them every day. You don't get new ones until you level up again. So you got to be very careful what you pick and make sure that that's what you actually want. I'm not going to go through all the spells because there's a lot of them. Adventuring, time of movement, it's pretty standard stuff. 40 feet per round. They can move in the wilderness. They can move up to 18 miles a day. Over difficult terrain, the movement is halved. Ranges, I went with short, medium, long, just to make theater of the mind maybe a little bit easier. Short range is 0 to 5 feet, medium is 5 to 60, and long range is 60 to 120 feet. Light, torches give it a 30-foot radius of light. Standard encumbrance. I try to make the encumbrance a little easier to understand, so characters can carry 60 pounds when lightly loaded, and 150 pounds when heavily loaded. Although I have seen mechanics that I like where it's like a point system, where you can carry like up to a certain number, like a number of items. We'll see. Mapping. This is just players should map dungeons. Doors. Honestly, I wasn't even sure if I was going to add this because I've seen this rule in other things. I'm like, why do you need a rule for opening doors? It's just opening doors. But the more I read into it, it was more like, okay, well, dungeon doors can be very heavy and like sort of sealed shut over the years, kind of things. So a stoic door can be opened on a 1 plus your strength bonus on a d6. So that'd be, if your strength bonus is 2, it would be a 1 to 3 on a d6 kind of thing. A locked door can be picked with a thievery skill or a 1 plus dexterity on a 1d10 for non-criminals. And then metal bars can sometimes be bent on a 1 plus strength bonus on a d20. So you gotta be like really strong. Traps, finding and disarming traps is pretty standard. Detected by searching the dungeon as the party moves through it. However, how the difficult the trap is to find depends on the type of trap and methods used to find it. So I didn't put like an actual roll mechanic in this for finding traps. It's more of a sort of player thing, like I'm thoroughly searching for traps. And you would be like, okay, you're actually looking for traps. You're spending your 10 minutes of turn time going through this dungeon looking for traps. Okay, you find it. If they just move down the hallway and they don't say anything, then too bad, so sad. And disarming traps is 1 plus dexterity bonus. Secret doors is a 1 to 2 on d6. Food and water. 1 day's worth of rations must be consumed every day. Any character that does not consume the appropriate amount of food and water for 2 days begins to lose 1 hit point per day. I might use the black hack system for tracking that stuff. I like it. You start at like a D10, and then if you roll a 1 on it or something like that, you go down to a D8, then D6, and then D4, and then you're out. I might add that in. I like that. Okay, encounters. So this is the meat and potatoes. So we have surprise, we have monster reaction, initiative, movement, action, and combat resolution. Surprise is pretty standard, unless otherwise noted. It's a 1 to 2 on a D6. When characters or creatures are hidden or are waiting to ambush their opponents are surprised on a roll of 1 to 4 on a D6. Monster reactions: 2 or less immediate attack, 3 to 7 unfavorable, 8 to 11 favorable, and 12 or more is very favorable. I think I got that from White Box. I know Basic Fantasy has the same thing, but I think the way I worded it, I think I got from White Box. Initiative is D6, and then you add your Dex bonus. There's a lot of D6 rolls in this, except for damage. I tried to keep it as simple as possible. It's kind of people almost always know what dice are going for. Like saving throws is a D20. If you're using magic, your percentile dice is D100, obviously. But for the most part, you're rolling a D6 for most stuff. Highest roll X first, second highest until every player and creature is taking their turn. And alternate rules. So you can go with party initiative, or you can do a round initiative, which I kind of like. I might actually play with this rule, or you roll initiative every round. The only downside of that, of course, is that it'll slow down combat. But I've built in some mechanics here that will speed up combat and make it pretty deadly. For the most part, it's pretty basic. You roll your attack roll on a d20. However, if you crit, if you get a 20, then you automatically, instead of just rolling damage and doubling it, because I've always found like you could do that, and then what if you roll a 1? You're only doing 2 damage. You're not like really gaining anything. So I said, so if you crit, you get your maximum possible, then you roll, then you add your modifiers. So if you're rolling damage on a d8 and you have a +2 to damage, you're having an 8, plus you're going to roll your d8, then you're going to add your +2 to damage. I kind of like that because it makes the crit feel more special, you know? You feel like you're doing extra damage. Then if you roll over 1, the game master can be like, oh, you stabbed your friend in the back, or what have you. So attacks from made from behind by characters who don't have criminal class get a +2 to hit and damage. So there's no real. You can flank, and if you're flanking, then you'll always get that +2 because there's always going to be someone like behind, kind of thing. But it has to be front and back. And then I added these 2 that I really like. This is what's going to make combat pretty deadly. The escalating danger. So every round, everyone gets a +1 to damage. So like after the second round, everyone's going to get an extra +1 to damage. Third round, everyone gets an extra +2 to damage. Fourth round is +3, and it keeps getting higher and higher and higher, and people are going to get more hurt. And then exploding damage dice. So if you roll your max damage on your damage dice, you roll your damage dice again and add that to the total. And it keeps going until you don't roll maximum. Death is pretty basic. When a character reaches 0 hit points, they are unconscious and can take more action. Can not take more action. That's really weird, strangely worded. Can take no more actions during combat. They lose 1 HP per round while unconscious. When their negative HP value reaches their level, they die. Pretty simple, and cannot be revived. Example, a third level character falls to 0 hit points, is unconscious. Combat continues for another 3 rounds. Each round they lose another 1 HP. After 3 rounds, they reach -3 hit points and die. The same can be said for if you get attacked while you're unconscious at 0 hit points, and that damage is dealt to you, you die. And for more deadly, 0 hit points, you're dead. That's it, that's all. For healing, binding wounds. When a character falls unconscious, another character can bind their wounds and stabilize them. Binding wounds heals 1d6 hit points. The character remains unconscious but does not lose hit points every round. Healing rest, characters can heal after taking a short or long rest. This restores hit points as well as restoring some abilities. And then a short rest is 30 minutes. They get 1 hit point. A long rest is minimum 6 hours. They get 1 hit. They can roll a hit dice and see how many they get back. And of course, they can always go see healers who will heal them. And that's pretty much it for that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm working on the bestiary and more of the actual world building part of it. But so far, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm looking forward to actually trying it out. I don't really have a group to try it out with. So if any of you are interested, let me know. Maybe we'll set it up and we'll run a game or two and see how people fare. Anyway, I hope this was somewhat entertaining. Maybe it gave you some ideas for your game. Maybe it didn't. Maybe you saw this and you're like, "That no, don't do that." But let me know in the comments, and save a seat for me at your table.